Hey guys, welcome to our discussion of the winter weather outlook. If you like what you see, like and subscribe to our WRAL YouTube channel.
And we're excited to talk about the winter weather outlook. Snow is one of my favorite subjects, and so I'm especially excited.
I was about to say, I think we got the right people to talk about snow because we love it. So
we definitely. Yeah. So last week when we got a little bit of snow, at all times I had the webcam up of one of our ski resorts. They're like, look, Chris, look, it's snowing. Oh my gosh.
It was like different ones
excited.
Each time. It was just like this rotating thing of cameras. It was awesome.
It was awesome. This winter may not be so awesome. We ended up with almost 5 inches of snow last year, but our chances this year don't look so great. Yeah. We have a La Niña this year, and that means that the water temperatures are cooler than normal in the Pacific, and that means that we'll have different impacts for North Carolina.
So a lot of times your typical air pattern over the United States is such that you have more of a dip in the jet stream, more storminess in the west, and then the opposite is true in the eastern U.S. A lot of times when I've covered weather in Tennessee and Virginia, you get that west slope snow out of it. So the ski resorts love it up towards Snowshoe. The Rockies love this kind of pattern too. But for snow lovers around here, it's not usually the best pattern for big snows. It's not to say it can't happen, but I mean, last year, 5 inches of snow, that was the most we had in quite some time.
Yeah, and that was really great. We have to have such a specific pattern to get snow here. Yeah, like you said, sometimes we'll have a system that comes through, the cold front comes through, and the cold front will have the precipitation with it. And then the cold air comes in behind it, and the cold air tries to catch the precipitation. That is never a good snow pattern for us. And we can watch the computer models, and the models will get all excited about that, say, oh, we're gonna have, 4 or 5 inches of snow, and we'll sit in the weather center and laugh. Like, models have no idea what's going on.
Right.
So it has to be very specific for us, and this is not a great pattern. We have to have that dip in the jet stream with lots of cold air in place, and then a system that comes in either from the Gulf or the Atlantic and moves into that cold air that's already there. So this La Niña pattern isn't great. And then here are the statistics why.
Yeah, so we've had 22 La Niñas since 1950. So again, it's that cooler water off the coast of Peru in the Pacific that alters our weather patterns. So 15 of those 22 La Niñas since 1950 have had below average snowfall. 5 have had above average, and then 2 have been near average. And we're going to talk about what the average is and how that's changed over the years, because it's not just a fixed amount. But yeah, the odds are certainly not in your favor there. I believe that's about 64% of La Niña winters are below average. But again, last year, below average, but for folks either new to the area or who've been here since 2020, it seemed like a lot.
It did. Yeah. I mean, we will go years, without any snowfall.
Right.
So to have any snowfall here is a treat. And Chris and I talked a bit about this, I think last week when it was snowing. Mm-hmm. What I've noticed, having, grown up in Raleigh, and then of course forecasted here for more years than I want to talk about, I've watched that snow line. It used to be somewhere between Raleigh and Fayetteville. And in Fayetteville, you felt sorry for them. Well, they're probably not going to get snow, or it starts to snow and changes to rain pretty quickly. And of course we know Roxborough, is the snow capital of the viewing area.
Yeah.
They always get it. But that line I've noticed has sort of shifted north of Raleigh, and it's harder to get snow in Raleigh. Typically like northern Durham County, and then farther, up toward the Virginia line.
Gotcha.
Now that seems to be sort of our line.
Yeah.
But it wasn't awful last year. I mean, we'll take 4.5
When we do the
snow.
school visits, everybody, the teachers especially, are, what do you think about snow this year? And you don't want to overpromise, but I've heard people talk about like US 1 sometimes being like that dividing line between the wintry mix and snow, and you see it play out a lot of time. I mean, the highway has nothing to do with it. It's just one of those reference points.
So if you think about it, if you've ever been to the beach in the winter, the temperature in the water feels cold. It's 50 degrees. But when you think about the fact that we have to get down below 32 to have snow here, really, we're so close. I mean, it's 120 miles from here to Wilmington. And in terms of weather, that's just so close. And we have that 50-degree heat engine that just sits there. So we really have to compensate for that. So the reason Roxborough gets more snow than anybody in our viewing area is because they're the farthest from the ocean. So that's always just a limiting factor for us.
Yeah, so that makes sense that US 1 would be like that reference point. So, and this is the cool thing is like we get to talk with each other. These are the conversations we have off camera and get to learn from each other's experiences and things like that. So I could say something like, oh, I've heard the US 1 split, and then Elizabeth is like, well, yeah, here's why. So, so let's talk about the average and how that's changed over the years. So this is basically a time series of our average snowfall, which if you were to look at the entire period of record for Raleigh, it's about 75 to 80 years. The average snow is 7 inches. We know that's not necessarily the case over the past 5 to 10 years, because if you look at that, it's about 2 to 4 inches of snow. So that's really gone down. Much to our disappointment, it's gone down. But again, I mean, I remember 2009, 2010 having a big one. So it's not to say it can't happen. And that was a December one, I believe.
Yeah,
December
I think
of 2010. It's like a day or two after Christmas. I was with NC State's marching band. And we were supposed to go to Orlando, of all places, and I think the flight was delayed. But you were talking about, you saw some big snows growing up in North Carolina.
Yeah, so I was a kid in the 70s, and that's going to date me, right? But I remember snow was so exciting. It was a holiday. You know, Dad stayed home from work, Mom stayed home from work, and everybody went and played in the snow and walks. We had a great sledding hill in our neighborhood, and so I grew up with snow, even here in Raleigh. I mean, you know, it's not like we had a lot of snows during the winter, but it seemed like we had one, you know, every year.
Yeah.
But of course, you know, as we get, you know, through time, I mean, in 1970, since then, we've seen as much as 5.5 degrees warming in our winter. And, you know, that's a lot when you're looking at being on either side of 32. That can make a big difference.
I was just thinking about that. Like, 5.6 degrees might not seem like much, but when you're talking about, there are some storms that, even last year, you and I would say 1 degree makes a difference. So if 1 degree makes a difference, then 5.6 certainly does as well. Over the course of a winter.
Yeah, and we see that play out across the viewing area also. So this is, you know, basically this is stats for RDU. So again, if you go 20 miles north and you might get 2 degrees cooler, and that makes a huge difference. So that's why, you know, it really feels like that line, that rain snow line has moved farther to the north, because it only takes a couple of degrees to make that big difference for us here.
Yeah, so with that in mind, the team put our minds together, and the forecast is less than average. So the annual average, if we're taking it from a 30-year perspective, because a lot of times your average or your weather normals, so to speak, are taken on a 30-year basis. That is still about 5 to 6 inches per winter. We're going with 1 to 3, so it's not to say that you get absolutely nothing, but at least there's something. I mean, but the thing is, we're talking about an entire season here, and that's really tough to forecast for. There are a bunch of things that we use to forecast the La Niña hurricane activity. That a lot of times can be kind of telling of what you might see in the winter. But yeah, 1 to 3. I don't know how I feel about that.
You know how I feel about it.
You want to go 10 to 30.
Right?
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, you know, would be happy with that, or happy with 0. But, you know, to me, the snow is so much fun.
Yeah, but it's tough. I mean, for us, like, from that personal perspective and from the professional one, it's like, it's hard to let go. And sometimes you just want to stay up and watch it and take videos and everything. So there are certain things that we use to forecast, and there are certain things that maybe you use to forecast. So some of the weather folklore, especially since moving to the Appalachian region over the past little bit, it really has been fascinating. So I was in Tennessee and Virginia for the past 10 years, and you would just hear different stories. But the one that everybody seems to talk about is if it thunders, 10 days from now, you're getting snow. It just seems to be like no matter where you go, people say that.
Yeah, they do that. And we'll get emails, we'll get texts, we'll get messages, you know, on social media. Hey, it thundered. We're getting snow. We're getting snow, right? And for most folklore like this, there's hardly any science to it. But for this one, there's a small bit. So if we get thunder in the winter, it means we have a very active jet stream pattern. And sometimes that active jet stream pattern will bring us something like snow. It's not a guarantee. I think what is it? Yeah, it's less than 20% accurate, but I think that's where it came from. Is, you know, snow in the winter is unusual, so it's an active pattern, and so you might, but you probably won't.
You might, but you might not. The woolly worm one was one that was foreign to me when I moved to the mountains of Tennessee. I'm like, what do you mean you're using a caterpillar for it? But it's so much fun. Was it Banner Elk?
That's right. They
has
have
the Woolly Worm Festival.
Yeah.
So according to that folklore, if there's more brown, it's a milder winter. If there's more black, it's a harsher winter. Do we have are they around here? I'm not sure. I've seen a ton.
I don't think we have. If so, not many.
Okay.
So yeah, I think more in the mountains, and I think it's just an excuse to have a party.
yeah, and I mean, I've never been, but that seems like such a great time.
Yeah.
The other one that I heard a lot of was these persimmon seeds, and so this is from the Farmer's Almanac, and so if it's a knife shape, which this is wild to me to begin with, is that looking into these seeds, that like there's different shapes, but a knife is harsh, a fork is mild, and then a spoon is lots of snow. Spoon would, that kind of makes sense, if snow cream and everything.
I had never heard of this until you mentioned it today. So
really?
This is news to me.
Yeah.
And then I went and I looked up some more of the winter and snow folklore. Oh my goodness, there's tons of it. There's so much of it. We don't even have time to talk about all of it.
Yeah.
But this one was pretty neat.
I would hear things about hornets' nests, about chipmunks and squirrels, and how they're collecting nuts for the winter. I mean, nature knows. You know, it's one of those things that in the beginning of my career, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, the textbook didn't teach me that, but but it's like, nature knows some things. So it's really interesting to hear other people's perspectives with these kinds of folklore.
Well, I think a lot of the folklore came from a time when meteorology was young or not even a science. I mean, we really didn't have the science of meteorology until the 1960s when the satellites were launched and we had computers that were fast enough to actually run the computer models. So we've come a long way. So a lot of this folklore was, people were wondering, you know, what's our winter going to be like? They wanted to know, and there was just no real scientific way to know.
And it's so important. Yeah, I mean, it's so important to not just, like we talk about the school teachers and everything, but to agriculture. And so I get why people are so just like itching. What is it, July, August, we start getting questions about about winter. So if you ever have questions about winter, how we forecast, you can always write us an email. We do Ask the Meteorologist at least 3 days a week on WRAL.com. And again, remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this.
And thanks, Snow.